$8,400, 3-year warranty with unlimited miles in that time. This is the Moto Morini X-Cape 700, a venture bike, light adventure bike from a brand you've probably not really heard much of, at least here in the US. This is an Italian brand, Moto Morini, yet went out of business a few years ago and has now sort of come back. The nice way they'd say is they're Asian produced, they're Chinese made. China. It basically has an old Kawasaki motor in it, 650, and it bored out, and is most likely made by CFMoto. It's got a number of Italian parts on it, German parts on it as well. It's a very confused bike. This road is pretty chewed up and there's a good chance there's gonna be some mud on it. Probably not the place that most people want to take a more light adventure bike. The reality is you still can do a lot of this if you can just go slow. Now if it's like obstacle climbing and whatnot, or some kind of crazy hill, or actual just straight up mud, it's gonna get a little trickier. It did recently rain quite a bit, so I'm trying to just take my time. Comes off-roading, a lot of times there's some sort of equilibrium there too, where if you're going too slow because you're trying to, you know, be risk avert, you end up working yourself really hard and wearing yourself. But to be fair, that's gonna be a lot of the stuff you're gonna be dealing with on a bike like this. One that you're not gonna be deep off in the trails, and you're gonna be dealing with side-by-sides and quads and trucks coming along these trails and beating them all to hell. So let's back up a little bit. This is a 700cc parallel twin light ADV style bike, 19 17-inch wheels on it, spoked tubeless wheels, and they're running Pirelli Scorpion tires, which are oddly aggressive for a bike like this. Equipped it with Marchini suspension in the front and a KYB shock in the rear. They've added preload adjustment to it this year, which is pretty cool. Just a simple knob you turn back and forth. You throw your luggage on, or a passenger, whatever, you can quickly reset it. And this engine is the Kawasaki 650 that you would see in things like a Versys or a Ninja 650. Licensed version of one of those engines. It's been punched out to a 700. While it's a super reliable engine, it's not always the most fun engine. Now, if you saw my review on the old 650 version of this bike, that was one of my biggest complaints, was the engines. The old one just felt lethargic at times and hard to make go. And the big question is, have they fixed that now? Is it better? All right, that was first. Let's see if it'll just throttle up. I don't quite want to do that. Oh, it will come up in second. It's like that last 2,000 or 3,000 on the tack is where it finally kind of wakes up a little. But it is better. I mean, the 700 is better than the old 650. I can feel it's got a little more grunt to it. Might be a little more aggressive tuning as well. Perfectly capable cruising engine. It has the power like all day long. It just sucks to don't have that grunt. We've come to expect that. You see parallel twin around this size, you think, oh yeah, it's gonna be one of them fun little, you know, they almost feel like big dirt bike engines, right? But they're just not really getting that here with this thing. This thing wants to bog, man. You gotta kind of, that extra 50 cc's, it's done a little something, like I said, for the engine, but it still hasn't given it a lot of bottom end, which is something that we really wanted to see out of this. You still have to kind of rev out to get to the power. And yeah, sure, once you're way up top, it's more power than you need. It'll break loose off the off-road, but that's not the big point. The big point is, like, you need to be able to loft this wheel up sometimes, and it's not easy on this bike. Even like a clutch kick is just going to spin it, you know, if you kind of, yeah, it's tricky, and that ability to be able to lift the front wheel a little bit in off-road scenarios is really big. Gotta get out into this traffic, boy. like quarter throttle. I know I complain about this motor a lot. It's more than enough most of the time. But just to give you an idea, something like my MT-07 at the same speed, if we just, it's going to be one of the most disappointing parts of this bike is the engine. It's just not as aggressive as you would like it to be. The bike also comes in fairly heavy. We weighed the last one at 500 and I believe 14 pounds. They're claiming the same weight on this one, except now we have a center stand. Everyone likes a center stand because, you know, you get the rear tire off the ground, you can work on the rear But most people realize you can work on the front too. This thing has like no weight on it right now. You know, you could spin this wheel. We're kind of sunk in the dirt. But if you pull the axle, that thing's gonna pop up. Surf stands are cool. Probably something you don't want on a super hardcore off-road bike. Well, it's a little heavy and it gets in the way of your ground clearance. You gotta try to wrap a skid plate under it.
So who exactly is this bike for then? If you're looking at something like a Tanneray 700, an Africa Twin, a Touareg 660, so on and so forth, probably not that. Although there's also probably an argument that maybe you should be looking at something like that. I think so many of us think of ourselves as doing this hardcore adventure riding. So many people end up buying these bikes and not really ever using them in that sense. You might be more happy with something like that.
We're often sold this idea that, you know, adventure riding is going to be you on this BDR, you know, hauling the mail. I think for most of us, realistically, it's stuff like this right here. Dirt road, gravel roads. I think we all think we're going to be doing that Graham Jarvis until we actually get out there on one of these big bikes in those kind of conditions and you go, you know, I'm not sure I'm so thrilled with that. I'm no novice rider by any means. I've done plenty of off-roading, but it's still not my favorite thing to do, to take one of these big old bikes down a crazy trail. So many of the adventure rides I've been on with my buddies have been stuff like this right here. Some sort of gravel road. This one's extremely wide for whatever reason. And this is a chunkier gravel road than it may look on camera. This thing just shines, you know. It's gonna take any of the little wash or little pits absolutely fine. The suspension's more than capable. Oh. Yeah, look at that. Even going 50 miles an hour. When you get up in the RPMs, it's enough to spin this wheel. Look, Roadrunner. Roadrunner, where you going, buddy? Do they fly? I have such a long tail feather. Squirrel. Some people really aren't comfortable standing too on stuff like this, or you're going to be on a long stretch of it for a long period of time, and they're just going to be seated. The seat is so squidgy. The suspension is well enough that it's not really a big deal. You can sit on a road like this all day long. Wait, we must switch to off-road mode. Get a hold set on this for a second. There we go. ABS off. Do I actually need ABS off? Probably not. Oh. But a number of people have tested it and seem to show that most of us are not better than the ABS. At least when they have an off-road setting, and it would have been nice to see an actual off-road ABS, not just straight off. But I do appreciate that they let you turn it off. Some of these bikes, you can't even do that anymore. Not only can you turn it off, it turns it off to the front. I wouldn't have minded seeing an ABS system that had the option of not just killing it completely.
Getting away from the dirt for a minute, what about the daily rider? Somebody who just wants to cruise on this thing on the street every day. We've got the windscreen.
Got the fairing in the high position. See how we do. Let's see how we fare. It's a windy day. Definitely some buffeting going on, but understandably. It's a big side wind too. These fairings can kind of go both ways. You know, you block the wind over you, but you got a bunch of sail on the side. You could get pushed around. It's not doing half bad. Mirrors aren't vibrating. Well, I say that. One is, one isn't. That. Why is one? And here's the wind buffeting really hitting now. Woo! It's really windy though, and I will say, let me see if we can. Oh yeah. High mode. Did that really make a difference? This wind is kind of coming all over the place. Let's see, can we even tell a difference if we... Woo! It's funny, it's bobbling my head, but I will say the bike is just steady. It doesn't care. The wind is not. Here, let me see if I get past these cars just in case. Look. That's fine.
That, I think this could be a really great contender for, just because of how comfortable it is, how smooth it is.
We'll say this is such a comfortable bike when you're just cruising out here on the road like this. Like, it may be the most comfortable bike I've ridden. Seating position, the fairing, the bar height, like, it just works for me great. I could complain about this bike not being super exciting at times. I could make some complaints about this or that. Comfort is not one of them. This is a great cockpit. It's a great place to be.
Slight issue with that though is the lack of cruise control.
Where's the cruise control? Giving me so much features. It's so well laid out. It's a good cockpit, but I don't know, that was a mistake. Adding cruise control would basically though mean they need to go to a fly-by-wire system. This is still cable driven. That's an expense. There's a whole thing there, and I'm very critical of a lot of fly-by-wire systems. I think a lot of them make the bike feel much worse. There's good ones out there, just some, I don't know if it's tuning or hardware, but some of them just feel awful in my opinion. But if Moto Morini were willing to take that plunge, not only was cruise control super simple at that point, but true power mode, traction control becomes really easy. Some of that stuff can be done through fueling and timing, but it's so much easier when it's all just done by a fly-by-wire system. You too wide for lane splitting? Can you lane split? Find out. The Z. The new Z looks cool. I don't know, is it any good, guys? Looks cool. If it was a big old GS, we would never fit we would never make it. You could just slam these brakes. That's front only. It's got a Bosch ABS system. There's like zero reason to worry about it. Clutch in, full brakes. Can I stop that fast? Maybe. On this big of a bike, I don't know. I'll do it again. Here, watch. I mean, that's just me giving it to her, you know?
Another one on the road is what about sport touring? Honestly, again, for the most part, it would do pretty good. The miles per gallon should be great.
We're just probably under a quarter tank there. Down to the last bar or two. We took 3 gallons. This thing's got a good size tank on it.
It'd be nice to have a little more motor. It's not as if the thing can't do highway speeds and more, as we've demonstrated in this video. Even the last 650 version we had, I think at one point I got...
Bro, this is how people drive out here. Look, I mean, I'm not really going any faster than these guys.
This one's definitely going to be capable of that, if not, and some. But coming back to the lack of cruise control, that's going to suck even more. Going back into the adventure world, I'm going to tackle one very individual question about this thing is, what about this versus an Ibex 450? I almost put them in kind of different camps. To me, the Ibex 450 is like a Tanneray 700 light. Better for like a new rider. It's kind of more beginner friendly, but in the hands of somebody who wants to rip with it, it's super fun. I enjoyed the hell out of riding one. The Ibex 450 is definitely leaning more into the off-road adventure world, and it does it very well. This is a good bit heavier, and the wheel size is on this thing. I would not want to take this into near as gnarly places as I would take in a little Ibex. That being said,
the Ibex 450's engine feels more lively and fun, but it's not more powerful than this engine. Up at highway speeds like this thing's going to absolutely just dominate.
As we've probably said 15 times throughout this video, as a light adventure bike, it's kind of hard to beat this.
You say words like light adventure bike, you know, it makes people think it can't do nothing, but light adventure is still a lot more than the average person's going to want to do. Getting ourselves into trouble. I'm gonna front brake down this just to show you. This tire is more grippy than you think it is. There's a lot of grip here, and if we have to just let go and go, I mean, you can do it, but there is so much grip here. Look at this grip level we've got. You want to take it easy, just take it easy. Now, most of us would never attempt a hill like this with such a bike, but I reckon it can do it. I think the thing that most people got to learn is what does light adventure really mean? How capable is this machine? What are you willing to put it through in your skill level? I mean, that's 20 million different scenarios. Maybe part of having a bike like this is occasionally stopping, do a little walk, make sure you're going to be able to keep going. You're not going to get in a situation where you can't turn around. Look that way, I look this way. I think we're good. I think we're good, man. Realistically, it could go a lot faster, I could tell, but... People put really good suspension on a light adventure bike. I mean, they just did. Railroad tracks? Railroad tracks. You know, one of the issues you would run into with this thing is that there's not a bunch of aftermarket for it. Now, fortunately, it does come well enough equipped. There's not a ton of things you're going to be wanting to throw on it, but crash cages and a skid plate are definitely some luggage racks, some things that I would love to put on one of these. And luckily, the manufacturer makes those. Seems like a lot of them do that these days. To get back on the road, honestly, I would just put this thing back into road mode, and that should re-enable the ABS once I click this little set button here. I'm gonna make the same complaint that I make about most adventure bikes and bikes in general that have settings. Can we just get like these preset buttons up here on the dash somewhere that switch it between our modes? You know, we could save it. And maybe the first mode is like the mode that's required by certain countries and states and laws that it has to go into every time. Fine, it presets to that, but then I can physically just push one button, boop, and change it. And it should work like a radio, where I could radio on the tunable ones, maybe give me 3 or 4 tunable ones. I can put it in my modes and hold it for a second, change the settings.
Someone very specifically asked me, well, what about this versus a used Tanneray? And I'm gonna be honest, I don't know, because all the props I'm giving this thing, something like a Tanneray with sport touring tires on it would do just as good, if not better than this thing. And that's kind of the world that you're in there, you know. The adventure bike is a pretty good bike out on the open road. It certainly isn't gonna hurt to have more capability than you need. I think if you're hell-bent to buy new, then it's hard to beat this thing for the price. And I realize this is completely subjective, but it looks good. I'm sorry, it just looks really good. One of the questions I'm sure a lot of you are gonna have is, can I trust this thing? I mean, it's made in China. What do we think about this? Is this actually a reliable bike? Component-wise, like we've said before, we're looking at a lot of really good stuff. It's a licensed Kawasaki engine, Bosch ABS, Pirelli tires, the suspension, the brakes, everything is high-dollar brand. You mostly can trust all that. You still gotta trust that they were able to put it together right and that they're gonna be there for you if something goes wrong. As far as assembly and build on this bike, it looks great to me. And I am a certified mechanic. I've had my hands on all kinds of bikes and wrenching and whatnot. I've pulled this thing apart a little bit. I've had the side panel off, had the seat off, just to kind of see what I could see under there. And honestly, you really couldn't tell the difference between this and like a Japanese built bike. And one of the real interesting things about this, I'm pretty sure CFMoto is building these bikes for them. I also know that CFMoto basically had a very similar platform to this for years. I think they've kind of gotten away from it now, but it was basically a bunch of 650 and then later 700cc Kawasaki engines and a couple different platforms. Side shock just like this, which is also the old Kawasaki shock. So much of this looks like the Kawasaki geometry. If Moto Morini has their own shop, if they have their own manufacturing shop, these things are being shipped over to them from CFMoto. This is my guess. Mostly built. I asked somebody at CFMoto if they're building these things and they kind of gave me like a nod and a wink, but they didn't want to actually say. That's not a bad thing. If you're going to have a Chinese built motorcycle, which I know makes a lot of people nervous, CFMoto is kind of like the go-to one to have. We've played with a bunch of their bikes on this channel. I actually have one of their Papios. That's one of the brands that's strong, it's been around, and they're continuing to expand. I'm not worried about that. But even if you were, the warranty's kind of insane. I think the big concern for a lot of us here in the US is, well, is Moto Morini going to be around in 3 years' time? This is a crazy market, things come and go. Are they doing that well? It's hard to say, I don't know. Since the first one I reviewed to this one have expanded and have opened more and more dealerships, that's always good. We always want to hear things like that. That's probably the main catch with this bike, right? It is an unknown brand here in the US. This, even when this was an old Italian brand, this was such a niche brand. If anything, I think they're bigger now in the US as this Chinese produced version. I think they've got more presence now. But even with that, it's kind of an unknown brand. It's built in a country that has some trust issues for a lot of people, understandably. So they counter that with lots of features. Lots of features. A crazy price, crazy warranty. That's it, that's the catch, that's the gamble you take.
Moto Morini, it's an interesting brand, like I said, because most of their bikes run this exact platform, just in different forms. This is the adventure version, there's like kind of a more sporty version, there's like a cruiser version, and they're all kind of based on this same core, set up a bunch of different ways, which I don't fault them for, because basically every manufacturer does that in some way or another. And for a brand kind of coming out of the woodworks there, kind of as a new startup brand out of China, it was pretty easy, I guess, just to go to CFMoto and get this platform and kind of set it up in a bunch of different ways that you want to do it in. And, hey, it works. But I was looking on their website. They do have some interesting stuff on there now. They've got 1200cc variant of this bike now with some kind of big, I think it's a big V-twin. And the other one that's really interesting is they now have a little 450 adventure bike, a 2118 adventure bike with a 450 parallel twin. What does that look like to you? Literally an Ibex 450. Sold as a Moto Morini. I think there's a little bit of differences. I think it's a bit heavier by about 20 pounds or so, but it has a center stand, so that's a chunk of it right there. Where somebody was asking me about this in my Discord, they said, well, which one should you get? And I said, well, they're the same price and they're basically the same bike. Technically, the Moto Morini's got a lot better warranty on it, but I don't know. There's also mad aftermarket for the actual Ibex version, but I wonder how much of that aftermarket would work on the Moto Morini. And to be completely honest with you, I'm not a big fan of a bunch of cross-platform stuff. I don't mind, when I see brands share some technology, even an engine or two, whatever, but I'm not real wild about like just straight up, rebadged bikes. And I think China, that's gonna be one of the things about them going into the future. Like who's who, what's what. We've seen a handful of like adventure bikes rocking the big twin KTM motors, different variants of that. Are these licensed engines? Are they copies? I think about things like that. But it feels weird, it feels weird. What do you guys think about that?
So I don't know, is that any kind of consumer advice? I don't know. But they are pretty neat. If you happen to be near a Moto Morini dealer, you should probably go check one of these things out. I think it's been fun. But you do you, man. Let me know what you think. If you got any questions, comments, let me know in the comments, typey things. Brain fart. If you want to help support this channel, check out my Patreon or YouTube memberships, where most of these videos will have a extended version that comes out earlier and ad-free. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Later, y'all.